Hi, everyone, and good evening. My name is Simon Misiewicz from Optimize Accountants. And tonight we can go through the budget announcement that Rishi Sunak on today, I need to switch me off. On the 3rd of March 2021, Rishi Sunak gave the budget announcement. So what are the details? How does it affect you as a business owner or indeed an investor? Well, let's go through all of those details right now. And to do that, I need to share my webcam. So I'm just going to share my screen now as we do that. So just bear with me a second. My share button doesn't want to work by looks of things. Okay, technical fault right at the wrong time, I've just noticed. So let's just try and get that up and running. Okay, let's see if that, for some reason, that didn't work. Anyway, good evening. On the third time of asking, here we are, and here we are live on different streams as well. So that's a nice hiccup to have with the technology. Thank you for that, Apple. But good evening to one and all. I hope you've had a pleasant day. I have been going over the budget and how it affects you as a business owner and a property investor. So we're going to go through those details, but on the left-hand side, if you see me navigate over to the left, that's because I am looking at your live questions and I will be picking those up. So if you do have any questions, or if you want to just say hi, then you can do that as well. So make sure you kind of say hello and get involved into tonight's session. So let's get into the details, and hopefully I can also see your questions being fired in as well. So I will be able to check in from time to time just to say hello. So let's go into it for tonight. What is happening? And hello, Bob. Hello. And I can see Ricardo as well. So hello, both of you, and good evening. So let's go through the main subject of the budget. Whilst I'm doing this, if you are interested, by the way, feel free to look at the article that I have written all the way throughout today, listening into Rishi Sunak on the 3rd of March. I've been pretty much focused on what he's been saying. And interestingly, I've been updating my articles. Already my spreadsheets are pretty much up to date with all the latest changes. But here we are, and welcome. Let's get into the first couple of slides. Okay, it's a bit of a delay from my system for this reason. Okay, so let's talk about the stamp duty land tax holiday period. What was the change there? Now, you may recall that you don't have to pay any stamp duty land tax at all, 0% on any purchases up to £500,000. And there was a huge debate on whether or not that would be extended. Well, today, the 3rd of March 2021, Rishi Sunak gave his budget announcement and did indeed extend that stamp duty land tax holiday period. And that has now been extended until the 30th of June this year, 2021. But he also suggested a few other things as well. And what I'm going to do is just get to my laser pointer for this. He also introduced a new scheme which would run from the 1st of July 2021 all the way through to the end of September 2021, whereby the 0% stamp duty land tax would be still 0%, but to properties of £250,000. So pretty much going in between the current £500,000, 0%, and the traditional 0% at £125,000. Now, lastly, once it gets to the 1st of October, he did say that it would resume back to the stamp duty land tax holiday, the normal SDLT period, which for many of you may not be such a good thing. But for many people, that is a huge saving. I know many of our clients that are trying to purchase properties, and there's a huge backlog with local authorities doing their searches. There's a huge backlog as well with conveyancing solicitors. So this is a breather of great relief for many, many people, especially those people that are trying to purchase a home and get it over the line before the 31st of March. Now they can breathe a sigh of relief. So that is one great piece of news that came out of the budget announcement today by Rishi Sunak. Now, what I want to do is go through all of the different taxes that I could think of which could be affected. Now, the next one I want to talk to you about is the capital gains tax. And by the way, if you do have any questions, make sure you fire those questions in, and I will make sure that I have time to respond to them. And the first question is, what do you think about the value of money in the next couple of years? I think the value of money, of my money, will increase. I hope yours does too. And that's because I will work darn hard to make my business successful. And I'm sure you will do too. So do I care about the value of money? No, I kind of value my own efforts and how I will invest and build my businesses. And hopefully everyone will do the same as well. Now, capital gains tax, what is going on here? Now, we talked, well, Rishi Sunak got the office, the tax simplification department, to look at capital gains tax. What could be changed in the world of capital gains tax? And that was his key focus, to say, well, hold on a minute. Do we need to align it to income tax? Do we need to reduce the capital gains tax annual exemption amounts? What do we need to do to simplify the system of when someone sells an asset that we can get the capital gains tax money in? Well, there hasn't been any mention at all in that. And I didn't think there was going to be any real meat on the capital gains tax changes this time around. I rather suspect that that announcement may come into September, October. Now, why do I think that? Well, simply enough, there's been too much change going on, and therefore, why should we change too much right now? We've got the pandemic to get through. We've got a recession to get through. Capital gains tax and making all those changes actually is a lot of work, and therefore isn't something that they should be focusing on right now. Why do I think it's going to be delayed until September? Well, again, simply put, we are looking at a new time horizon. Hopefully, we're getting out of all of this pandemic. Rishi Sunak has already mentioned that a lot of the changes that's going to come into play will also be reversed and go back to normal. So for my money, everything will resume, and capital gains tax therefore could be looked upon. So right now, if you're looking to sell properties, maybe now is a good time. If you're looking to incorporate your property portfolio, maybe now is a good time, whilst the capital gains tax change rates are still the same. So as you can see through the screen, you can see that the amount of tax is 0% for amounts up to 12,300, which is a welcome relief. And you've also got this whole thing of the 10% tax ban if you're selling non-residential assets, which is where people are basic rate taxpayers. So you pay just 10% capital gains tax. There is no change between now and the next year. And if you're a high rate taxpayer, you will be paying 20% if you sell standard assets that are non-residential properties. So we do need to bear in mind that if you're looking to sell a residential property investment, as a basic rate taxpayer, you will be paying 18%. If you are a high rate taxpayer earning more than £50,000, then you will be paying the 28%. So you will notice that people that are selling residential property investments will indeed pay 8% more than those that are selling non-residential property investments. So if you are selling an asset, though, at £100,000 and you think, well, I'm only earning £20,000, therefore I'm a basic rate taxpayer. Well, that's not technically true, because the amount of money you receive from the asset is added to your total income. So you could easily go from a basic rate taxpayer on a scaled rate charge all the way to being a high rate taxpayer as well. So really cumbersome itself. So what I would say is, I'm just going to go to my screen now. It's just taking ages again. Okay, so inheritance tax. Was there any change to inheritance tax? Again, there have been no changes whatsoever to inheritance tax. There was mentioning this maybe a couple of months ago, but there was no mention beyond that. And the rates for inheritance tax is £325,000, but that can be increased to £500,000, so £500,000, depending on your home. So if you die and you have, let's say, £1 million worth of assets, you've got an expensive home that you live in, then you'll get IHT lifetime allowance of £500,000. The rest of the £500,000, which is the excess for between £500,000 to your £1 million worth of assets value, you will be taxed at the 40% tax rate. Now, that's not going to change from this year to next year. So that's a blessing, really. I know that we're out of Europe, and maybe, just maybe, I thought there would be a mention. But again, I think there will be a stalling of the inheritance tax review. I think it's inevitable. I think they will be looking at this in, again, maybe September, maybe next year, to review inheritance tax. Rishi Sunak's focus pretty much on the 3rd of March today was focusing on income tax and making sure we freeze that, looking at corporation tax and VAT for hospitality industry. He wasn't really focusing on inheritance tax, but I rather suspect that will happen in due course. Now, guys, listen to me. If you are here, whatever platform you are, whether you are on Facebook, whether you are on LinkedIn, whatever it might be, please do give us a like on whatever platform you're on. Even Twitter, I believe we're on there as well. So give us a like. But if you have any questions, feel free to drop those questions into the comments box, and I'll make sure I answer those as we go. And that's, in fact, what's on my left-hand screen. So I'm going to just go into that now. So hello to Ricardo. Shilpa, hello, good evening as well. Ricardo said, what do you think about the value for money? I think I've answered that one. Abdul said hello. So hello, Abdul. Bob had said, was there a CGT change in October? Well, there's been no change so far to CGT. And like I said, Bob, I don't think there'll be a change just yet. I rather suspect that will come at some point in the future. And Bob said, what would it be likely to happen? When will it be likely to be applied from? That's a great question, Bob. The answer to that is no one, quite frankly, knows. And I certainly don't think that Rishi Sunak has spent too much time looking at that particular CGT. So great questions, everyone. Make sure you carry on asking those fantastic questions. It really does help me to kind of focus and help you along as well. So make sure you do get your questions into me. I'm just going to go to questions, see if there's anything else going on. I can't see anything right now, so I shall move on in that case. I'm going to take a slip, if that's okay. We'll come on to limited companies shortly, but what was also very good news, and I'm just focusing on the self-employed for now, but the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, or the SEISS, has now been extended to the 30th of September. So if you've got a fall in profits because of the pandemic coronavirus, then you will get your support. Now, just remember that that support is 80% of your profits, or it's capped at $7,500 per quarter, which, to be honest, is in line with the furlough scheme. So you will be able to get a grant for your self-employment income support scheme if you have submitted tax return. There was a change, interestingly enough, whereby Rishi Sunak said, well, if you submitted your tax return for 1920, you could now apply. Before this announcement, it was only there for people that submitted the 1819 tax returns and the previous tax returns as well. So there has been a change. So it is possible that people that have been self-employed can now get that support. So that is brilliant news for the self-employed. Now we're talking about self-employed, and we need to also think about limited companies. You may be a business owner that is under self-assessment right now, and just me talking about the basic rate tax band paying 29% on some of those profits, and then moving to a high rate tax band of paying 42%, you may be just as well to look at a limited company, and whether you incorporate your business or indeed just create a new business inside a limited company, that choice obviously is yours. But you ought to be thinking about a limited company, because that has now been frozen again for a couple more years at just 19%. So could you save yourself tax as a sole trader, whereby you are using self-assessment right now, but wish to now incorporate your business into a limited company? You certainly should be thinking about that. Now, the one thing that Rishi Sunak did announce today is the fact that you will have a change in 23-24 tax year. Now, what that means is that if you have got profits of less than £50,000, you will remain to pay the 19% corporation tax, which is in place right now. So people, and what Rishi Sunak was saying, that is 70% of businesses will not be affected by this extra tax charge, which I'm going to talk about later on. They will remain to pay just the 19%, which is welcomed news, I have to say. And years ago, we had this taper relief when it was 22%, 21%, and then going down further. There was taper relief then, but now there's going to be a bigger taper relief, because any company that is going to make profits in 2023-24 more than £50,000 to £250,000, you will pay an element of both. So you'll have to calculate a taper. So you could pay anything from 19% all the way up to 25%, depending on the profits you make. Any business in 23-24 that makes £250,000 worth of profit, which Rishi Sunak said that is only just 7%, or I should say, was it 7% or 10% of the main businesses in the UK fall into this bracket. So they will pay the 25%, which is indeed 6% more than what it is currently. But as Rishi Sunak said, we still will be one of the lowest corporation tax countries in the G7, which is fantastic news. And again, we probably should be thankful for that, given all the amount of investments that have been made by Rishi Sunak. So again, don't forget to press your like button. If you're on YouTube Live, make sure you press that subscribe button as well. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, give me a comment as well. Ask your questions, because I am here to take those questions. So let's just take a slurp whilst I'm doing that. Like I say, it's been an interesting long day for me. Starting at 8 o'clock, it was quite an intense day, and I was typing all the way through. So let's have a look. We've got 53 on YouTube, 4 on Facebook, 3 on 3 on my Facebook page as well, and 3 on Twitter. So great news that I've got Twitter people as well following me. Hello and good evening to you all. So let's just go to the questions. So Richard, let me just make sure I get the right questions now. So, okay, good. We've got Liam, who said, hi, Simon, I gave a like. So thank you for that, Liam. Rishi said we can offset more, pay companies that invest. I didn't get to see how this works, Sue. To be honest, there's been a lot of discussion by Rishi Sunak in today's budget, whereby you can invest money into buildings, and also talked about different regions. So unfortunately, I don't have the details of that with me tonight. But as they unfold and as more details come out, then I certainly will be sharing that with you. So hopefully you can see that as well. So Lime Road, but Sue under Lime Road. So hopefully that's not your address, but maybe it is. So we've got Richard, who's asked the question, if all income from property, do I need to pay national insurance? That's a great question. Now, people that are earning money on the side, in addition to property, such as like an employed job, then there's no national insurance to pay. But if indeed you are classifying yourself a business because you only rely upon the majority of your income is from property, then there is a challenge from HMRC to say that you should pay national insurance. And that is indeed the point where you pay under the partnership rules as well. So do speak to your accountant where this applies, because sometimes it can be paid, or should be paid, sometimes there are ways of mitigating that liability. Hopefully that's answered your question there, Richard, and good evening to you as well. Ricardo's asked a question. Looks like interest rate will be kept low for a while, or did I miss something? To be honest, Ricardo, I really didn't watch that piece of news. I wasn't focusing on interest rates. I didn't see anything on interest rates. My focus today was purely on tax. So unfortunately, I didn't pick up that piece of information. If anyone else has got anything to share on that, please feel free to share what the interest rate predictions are for the next few years, because quite frankly, and some other good news that came out of this was not self-employment income support scheme, but furlough. So again, if you are a limited company or you're an employee and you're worried about your job security because of the pandemic, Rishi Sunak has now extended furlough until the 30th of September 2021, which is fantastic news for anyone that is concerned about their family and indeed bringing money into that family. That extension to the 30th September has been well received, even by the House of Commons today. The one thing I would say about that is that Rishi Sunak did say that it will allow this to go through to June, July, but they would expect employers to make some sort of contribution. What that contribution is, well, that is to be decided. So we're not quite sure. Right now, employers have to pay for employers' national insurance and pensions and any bonuses, and the government will pay the staff member 80% of their salary or 2,500, whichever is the lesser. Now, on that point, if you are going to be worried about this, you do need to still reach out to your HR department and your boss to find out what their plans are. I rather suspect that they'll keep you on furlough, but as business starts to open up again, then I rather anticipate that people will start to be brought back into businesses in due course. That's the hope and the prayers, I'm sure, of the entire UK. Okay, so again, give us a like. Gives me this slide really is just a bit of a breather for me, if I'm totally honest with you. But it's a great marketing tool, nevertheless. I'm sure you can agree. So make sure that you do press that like button. Give me a comment or a question, and if you can, please do subscribe to this YouTube channel, because I don't want you to miss out any future videos that's going on. I'm just going to now take another slide because, to be honest, like I say, I haven't really drank too much, and that's not done me any favors at all. Okay, so let's get to some of the questions. There's some more questions coming in, so that's great. The more questions I can have from you guys, the more interactive this becomes, and the more we all learn together. So maths KS2 GCSE exam papers. Wow, that's quite specific. Good evening, sir. It says here, what's the difference between national insurance and pension contributions? Well, that's a great question. So national insurance, really all that does is pay for your state benefits. So you have a state pension, and it also pays towards your NHS. Now, pension contributions, there are different types. National insurance is one of them, as you can probably appreciate, but you can also make additional pension contributions, and that can be in the form of salary sacrifice, or indeed it could be pension contributions that you make after you've been paid. The one thing I would say to anyone, if you are looking at making pension contributions, please do it with salary sacrifice in mind. And the reason for that is because you can save yourself income tax and national insurance. Mr. Maths KS2 GCSE exam paper asked me another question. Sir, I like being called sir. I feel like I should put a tie on for that title. Sir, what's the difference between national insurance? I've already mentioned that. Where did it say? Oh, here you go. How do you claim the fourth grant self-employed? Now, if you're entitled to the self-employment income support scheme, you would have been notified. And what I mean by that is HMRC will look at your tax returns, and anyone that submitted a tax return either in 1920 or now 2021, they will look at your tax returns and see how much money you had and how much money you've lost, and then invite you to make an application. So do have a look at that. Additionally, what I would say is be proactive, like I'm sure you would be. Check out the government website, especially on the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, and maybe just have a prod to see if you can make sure that you are on the radar. I think that's really important. Someone's asked a question. So, David, good evening, David. It says here, is there any hope for us to be caught under IR35? Ooh, that's a great question. IR35, no mention of it in this particular budget, albeit it was pretty much put under the carpet, but still being enacted. What do I mean by that? Well, IR35 is for anyone that is acting like a contractor under a limited company in order to save on income tax and national insurance. But HMRC have for a long time, I mean, IR35, let's not forget, that's been around since 2002, 2003. I mean, I can remember that being a contractor myself and worried about the IR35, and I decided to start up this business instead because I was so petrified of what IR35. I was working in local authorities as a change agent, change management, program management, that kind of thing. I've always done tax, but I just slipped into technologies and program management for whatever reason. But IR35, yes, that's still on the radar. Yes, that's still in there. So from the 6th of April, 2021, IR35 is now the responsibility of the employer. So it used to be the focus on the employee just alone, but now it's the focus is turned to the employee to say, well, hey, if you have employed someone on the pretense that they're a contractor, but really they're an employee, we are going to give you penalties and fines and all sorts of issues. So if you are a contractor, I would rather suspect that big organizations I'm more talking about will be saying to you, hey, we need to change things around, you need to come on the books, or indeed, we need to let you go. I rather anticipate that. I don't know why that wasn't brought up today in the budget announcement in the way that I expected it to be. Maybe, again, a bit like inheritance tax, capital gains tax. Is there something bubbling underneath Rishi Sunak's mind to say, well, I'll bring that in October, whilst everything else seems to come back to normal? Who knows? But I also suspect that that's IR35 is still in place. But how much are they going to enforce it? I really don't know. I mean, you already gave a bit of a holiday period. So that's pretty much the budget announcement. All the news that I had, there wasn't much more to it, to be honest. So hopefully you found that useful. But I will stay on to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to send me those questions through. And it's nice to see we've got 51 on YouTube, so I'm squinting because I can't see. Facebook, we have 3, a bit like Penfold, 2 on my Facebook page and 1 on Twitter now, so the 2 have disappeared. So let's just keep asking question here. So we have got someone else asking about IR35 regards to limited company. Hopefully I've answered that one now. What does national insurance mean? Well, national insurance, like I say, is just money that the government take from you, and they pay for, or national insurance is paying for the NHS, as an example. So I think we all quite frankly like the NHS because it's free. If you live in countries like America, you need to pay $500 per stitch. Well, that can be quite expensive. So let's be thankful that we do have the NHS. So Musk, wow, you're asking lots of questions. That's great to see. Said, sir, how, again, sir, oof. Please just call me Simon. You know, let's rid ourselves of formalities. I'm happy for you to call me Simon, honestly. It says, how can you claim tax relief? Does the traveling costs affect costs? Any advice? This is an important question. Do I need to speak to my employer about this? What happens if they say no? Well, it depends on what costs you have, to be honest, but I would say speak to your employer first and foremost and talk about your costs, and indeed whether you should be able to get some expenses from them. But apart from that, I'm not quite sure. And the one question from Richard said, if IR35 is going to be more expensive to do business, well, then yes, obviously. I mean, IR35 means that you're paying national insurance. So is it going to be more expensive? I think you get less money. So yes, I agree with you. Maybe it is more expensive to run a business. So yeah, unfortunately, that could be the case. So hopefully that's been useful. I will be doing more live sessions. Louise and I will be doing some live sessions together. So that will be happening in the next few weeks, and we'll be doing live Q&A. So Louise will be joining me in the next few weeks to talk about that. So hopefully we'll do Wednesday evenings at 8 o'clock. So we'll welcome that as an introduction, and we'll be happy to take your questions. Any questions before I leave, or are we done for tonight? I feel like an auction house where I'll say going, gone. And indeed, that is me finished. Oh, one more question. Victoria from Facebook has asked a question. I saw a question about whether or not there is a limit to the number of companies you hold in order to keep your profits lower. And the answer to that, Victoria, is they already know that people will do this. They'll look at all of your company structures and say it's going to be tax evasion if you try and avoid tax in that way. So you can't really separate your businesses out just to keep your profits low. They will know that because you are a shareholder of that business. And a bit like properties, they can look at things like Companies House to see that you are a shareholder. So just be a bit careful with that in mind. I do apologize. So that's it, guys. Thank you ever so much for joining me this evening, and hopefully you found that useful. And I shall see you next Wednesday if we're going to do it. Tell me if next Wednesday would be cool for you. If you would enjoy these sessions each Wednesday at 8 o'clock, then maybe just let me know by saying yes. So why don't you do that right now? And I'll just take another sip whilst you just reply. You might find me boring and don't want me to do this ever again. And that equally would be, well, actually, it would be quite heartbreaking. Yeah, heartbreaking. It would. So yes. Thursday's better. Yeah, I can't do Thursdays. Unfortunately, I've got other things on Thursday, but I could do certainly Wednesday. So if you're their maths teacher, then I can do. So let's go ahead and do that next Wednesday, and let's see what kind of questions that you can come up next Wednesday. Until then, thank you and have a great evening. Cheerio now.